Hey, what up everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you with the episode 3 review of the Monday Night Wars WWE versus WCW series that's been going on with WWE Network. We were treated to having not one, but 2 episodes this week. Last night's NWO episode, honestly, in my mind, let me down a little bit. I thought that basically they had sort of, dove in and tried to cover the NWO too fast. And just trying to talk about the start of the NWO and how it was created and how it was formed and how it was used in that first few months period, and that WCW was sort of using that to sort of take over the ratings war between them and the WWF at the time. Basically, I thought that they were just sort of going over things that we'd already known from the Back in Black DVD, as well as the NWO The Revolution DVD that just came out in 2012. This DVD, or this episode, honestly sort of scared me with the title of Embracing Attitude Modified. Well, I guess it's just modified. I don't know why they keep putting up 2 episodes. One was rated TV 14 and one was rated TV PG. I have no clue what they're doing with this. But basically, in my mind, I was a little bit scared because of the reason of the Attitude Era, which came out last year, I believe. I picked up the Blu-ray. I thought that it had a pretty good documentary, but the documentary honestly was really short. And I thought that in that 30-minute documentary, it left a lot of things untouched upon. So maybe I shouldn't have been scared. Maybe I thought they were going to make up for it within 1 hour show, talking about what was going down. And honestly, at the very beginning, I thought that they were touching on things that they had talked about in the very first few shows. Basically, the 10 minutes of this episode was basically going over what they have gone over in week 1 and week 2, and I was like, you know what, at the end of this show, more than likely, I'm just going to wish that they would have just done a 2-hour Monday Night Wars documentary and probably just sort of reset what they had done in 2003 and just sort of done it. But I think that honestly, after this episode, I have a lot of faith in it. I do like the 1-hour mini documentary series that they're doing on this. What I really thought they were going to do with the Monday Night Wars series was I thought they were going to talk about maybe however many episodes this show is going to be, 10, 12, 20. I thought they were going to go over the 20 biggest nights of the Monday Night Wars and sort of show us the best matches that happened that night, what was going on as this match was going on. If you would have flipped the channel, this is what would have happened on the other channel. I like my way, I like their ways. I think that moving forward after tonight, I think that I'm back into the series more than I was tonight. Even into this show when they were doing sort of that 10-minute sort of rewind segment, talking about the things that we'd seen in the first 2 shows. I was ready to throw in the towel and just say, this wasn't for me. But I think that they really got their point across about what, Vince was trying to do to try and, kick this back up. During that sort of rewind segment, they had Daniel Bryan on there saying as, WCW was going out and they were buying the big names and bringing them over from WWF, going to WCW, such as the Macho Man and Hulk Hogan. They were, beefing up their main event status with older guys. Why, Vince with WWE was going out and signing guys thinking of the future, which I thought, that Daniel Bryan was way off on this point because he mentioned guys like The Rock, he mentioned Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he mentioned Triple H. Honestly, in my mind, when Vince was going out and trying to sign The Rock, I think maybe he was looking to the future, thinking that The Rock could have been the babyface of the company sooner than later. They could have pushed him up and made him a big deal. Definitely, Stone Cold Steve Austin was never supposed to be what he once was. Stone Cold Steve Austin on his podcast even says that when Vince brought him in, it was just supposed to be that mid-card mechanic role that just basically wrestled good matches on the middle of the shows, was a big-time heel, but basically never won anything and never went anywhere. Triple H, honestly, in my mind, was a great wrestler. They brought him in as sort of that Blue Buds gimmick that rested in the middle of the card. Triple H is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. If it wouldn't have been for Bret Hart leaving and going to WCW, if it wouldn't have been for the Shawn Michaels injury, if it wouldn't have been for the Stone Cold Steve Austin injury, I don't think Triple H ever would be where he once was. Maybe he still would have found a way to marry Stephanie McMahon. Maybe he would still be moving into that role of becoming the CEO of the company. But there's no way in the world, I think, that he would have become the main event guy, without a whole bunch of injuries coming out. I think that basically Triple H was going to be a mid-card wrestler for his whole life, and I'm not saying that he didn't deserve it. I'm just thinking that at that point of his career, I don't think Vince saw any money in Triple H except for where he once was. And that's me talking about one of my favorite guys of all time. From here, they talk about how, they first tried to switch it up, and they started going in a different direction. And the first thing that they talk about was the Stone Cold Steve Austin gun incident, which happened on Monday Night Raw. Honestly, in my mind, they did touch upon ECW going, and sort of changing things along the way, which they sort of touched upon with the hardcore division, which we'll talk about later. But honestly, in my mind, when I always think about Vince going in a different direction, the first direction that I saw them really taking a change was when ECW showed up on Monday Night Raw. Vince McMahon was trying to go for like a promotion versus promotional war, thinking that basically, even though ECW was a smaller promotion, him getting attacked by people from the outside and bringing in new names, even if they were only known in the New York and Philadelphia and maybe you can say Florida market, definitely on that East Coast side, because ECW was growing in popularity, but it was still a very, very small promotion, was still going to be able to get some people watching the show because they loved ECW, but they had probably grown soft on the WWF show at the time because, they had the one thing they played up to show you how bad WWF was with Monday Night Raw was they showed Jerry the King Lawler hitting Duke the Dumpster Droese with a trash can, and the return promo from Duke the Dumpster Droese about why he wanted to beat up Jerry Lawler is, I thought it was alright for you. It was alright for you to attack me from behind, but you don't hit somebody with their own trash can. And that was what I was watching back in the day. I mean, back in the day, I cannot lie to you and say that, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, the NWO jumping over made me switch my TV from Raw to Nitro. But honestly, if you were to ask me back in the day, even in the heyday of WWF being down in the dumps and Nitro scoring all those ratings and being, huge in pop culture with everybody talking about it, I always wanted success for Monday Night Raw. I always was a WWF kid. They gave me Hogan and everything as a kid. I always wanted to see them prevail. I can't say that, that I wasn't talking a lot about Nitro, but in my heart, I always felt like that's who I was rooting for. In a lot of the DVDs and on a lot of the things, Cody Rhodes always says that he was a WCW guy. He was, I guess because his dad worked there. He would watch WWF to see Goldust, his brother, on there, but he always wanted Nitro to win the war. That's whose side he was on. I don't know if it's because that's who was signing his dad checks, or that's just the show that he loved more. But they talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin and the gun incident, and they have to go into detail about all the people that called and wrote letters about the things that they saw on TV. Some people loved it, some people hated it. They show a clip from LimeWire. No, not LimeWire, that's where you download free music. LiveWire, which was a USA show. I believe it was on Saturday or Sunday mornings. It was hosted by Sonny and Todd Pettengill, and a gimmick on that show was they would let callers call into the show and talk about what they had seen. They also showed matches to get you hyped up about things that were going down. At the time, I probably just thought, oh, look at these three guys. They had Vince McMahon, Jim Ross, and they had Doc Hendricks on the show, sort of defending what happened on Raw and talking about it and apologizing not only to the fans at home, but also to the USA executives, which basically had told them, look, do what you need to do on TV, but never, never a gun on USA television ever again. That's where the line was drawn. They have different shows. They've got NYPD Blue. They've got that other show that they show all the time on USA, no matter what time of day. They've got enough shows with guns. You're supposed to be wrestling. Let's stick to wrestling and just go from there. But it was Vince McMahon, Jim Ross, and Doc Hendricks also being, you know, the owner of the company, the head of talent relations, and basically a big-time guy on the writing staff at the time. And they were the ones that were answering, you know, to USA and the callers that were calling in. Had one guy write an email saying that basically, do more things like you did on Monday and I will never watch WCW again. You had a livid mother basically saying that we watch your show as family entertainment. We love wrestling, but you need to chill out on the gun violence. You need to chill out on the language. You know, they just wanted wrestling. So the Vince had to find some way to just sort of balance this out. They talk about how the girls on television, which was Sunny, Daniel Bryan was talking about how he was sporting boners thanks to her because the shirts kept getting smaller and the tights kept getting smaller and smaller. It was the first time I've seen Sunny do any sort of WWE network interviews. I don't think we'll be getting many more from here in the future. I think that she's somebody that might have gotten blacklisted thanks to her RF video shoot interviews, just lying about the company. Everybody knows the story about her saying things about the rehab situation, and it got her in a whole lot of trouble, and I think she's on the outs. But you know, they more than likely it got this back when she was getting put into the Hall of Fame, when they were thinking about starting the network, is how long that interview's been sitting around in the can. Talking about how her shorts kept getting smaller and smaller, but it was funnier to hear Daniel Bryan talking about, you know, as a high school boy watching this, and it just getting smaller and smaller. They showed the Super Bowl commercial, which was honestly something that I had forgotten about. If you don't know what that was, or you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure you just type in WWF Attitude Super Bowl commercial, which was if you were actually watching the Super Bowl, it was an actual TV spot that came on the television. I don't think Vince would ever do it again. I remember it costing a whole lot of money, and I don't think it really got them any ratings. It did definitely get people talking about them. Had Stone Cold Steve Austin walking through the corporate towers, hitting somebody with a chair. You had Val Venus getting it on with some chick, talking about porn stars. Kane was sitting in the hallway. Undertaker came walking through there. Mick Foley told everybody to have a nice day. Some guy came flying out of the building as Vince McMahon was on the outside saying, WWF Attitude, come get some. But, you know, that was showing you how mainstream WWF was, to just basically have a 30-second commercial on one of the biggest ad days out there. That wasn't cheap. That cost a ton of money to shoot the commercial, cost a ton of money to air the commercial, and that took some serious balls. And you know, Bischoff, on the other hand, was saying that basically the NWO had gotten to the point of, where do we go from here? He had no more ideas. He had one damn good idea that really put WCW on the map, that really got the ball rolling, but once that, you know, should have come to an end, they had nothing. And not Shivani, the other guy that was on the team. His name is out of my head, but he's the guy. God damn it. But he was basically saying it, you know, with wrestling, you know, people want to see, you know, something, and they want to see something new. After about, you know, 5 months, it's like seeing the same John Wayne movie over and over again. You already know what the ending's going to be. There's nothing really, you know, fresh that they can give us. Big Show talks about, you know, how the WWF basically built some sort of a dream roster at that point, and he just names everybody. And I've never even heard about that, but they basically, the show that he put out there, which was like Undertaker versus Kane, Rock versus Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus APA versus the New Age Outlaws, the Hardys versus the Edge and Christian. I was like, fuck, that's a damn awesome show. And that was a lot of the pay-per-views along the way. I've taken a lot of shots at the Attitude Era along the way. They put over the fact of guys like Godfather, guys like Val Venus, you know, sort of, you know, being like for the sex and violence sort of things, you know. They talked about, you know, Jerry Lawler was putting over the fact that somebody had the job of going out and finding the hookers to walk out with the Godfather, and saying that was probably one of the best jobs of all time. Val Venus, you know, had the gimmick of being a porn star guy. They had a lot of people with gimmicks that basically, in my mind, it was all about fan interaction. When Godfather would come out, everybody, "Ho, train!" And when Val Venus would come out, "Hello, ladies," Godfather, not Godfather, the Road Dogg had, oh, you didn't know? And that's what basically a lot of these guys got known for, was their introduction. And everybody wanted to go along with it. But they had a lot of big names on there. This was a great episode. Make sure you check it out. Episode 3, talking about the Attitude Era on the Monday Night Wars. Peace out.